The cold, bone-chilling Illinois winter wind cut across the flatlands of Decatur, Illinois, biting the face of a mid-20s Vito Bertoldo as he climbed from the mouth of the local coal mine, his clothes blackened with dust from a hard day's work. You see, the work was brutal. The pay, it was small. But for the poor-eyed, asthmatic man with a work ethic that was bigger than Texas, well, it was just another honest Tuesday's work. You see, he had been swinging a pickaxe since he barely graduated high school, same as his father before him. And growing up in a Depression-era coal town was rough, especially when you were physically unfit for a lot of the other jobs. You see, Vito was not the kind of man anyone would notice for a football game, let alone a death-defying one-man stand against an entire Panzer battalion. Quiet, broad-shouldered, handsome, with dark, watchful eyes behind thick prescription glasses. You see, the doctors had told him when the draft came around that he was unfit to serve. Eyesight, one doctor said. Let the others fight. You're 4F. Another doctor told him. Vito? Well, he couldn't stand the thought of watching from home. And when the war came, well, he walked into the Army recruiter's office anyway. Eyesight's no good, muttered the lieutenant, flipping through his file. Then let me do something that doesn't need good eyes, Vito replied. So he was drafted as an MP. Safe duty, far from the front lines. But he wanted more. And he trained himself harder than anyone else, learning to shoot a gun by how it felt, not by sight. And before long, he had talked his way into the infantry, ending up at Company A, 1st Battalion, 242nd Infantry Regiment, in the 42nd Division, the Rainbow Division, as our company cook. By early January of 1945, the Rainbow was knee-deep in the frozen mud of Alsace, fighting for a little French town called Hatton. The Germans had thrown everything they had left into Operation Nordwind, their last desperate counterattack of the war. And then, my favorite listeners, is when Vito Bertoldo's quiet life ended and his legend began. The first shell screamed in before dawn, tearing through the town with the sound of ripping metal. Windows shattered, smoke rolled through the streets. Inside of a battered schoolhouse, the 1st Battalion command post shook as artillery rounds slammed closer, knocking the dust off the already destroyed walls. To the alternate CP, the battalion commander ordered. Who's gonna cover the retreat? Someone shouted. I will, Vito valiantly declared. Though he was just a private first class, a cook most of his time overseas, nobody argued. He quickly grabbed a .30 caliber machine gun, mounted it at the doorway, and took a breath as the staff hurried out. Minutes later, the first Panzer tank appeared through the smoke, its cannon swiveling towards the building. Behind it came dozens of German infantry. So Vito waited until they were almost at the steps, nearly 50 feet in front of him. Then he opened fire. The roar of his gun drowned out everything. Tracers splashed the fog. Men dropped. Tanks halted. The smell of gunpowder and snow filled the air. When the 88 fired, the blast hurled him across the room like a rag doll. He staggered up, ears ringing, blood on his face, and his heart nearly jumping out of his chest. The gun still worked, so he did too. Hour after hour, wave after wave, the Germans attacked. The entire time, Vito held his ground, alone, firing through broken windows and skillfully maneuvering multiple machine guns and ammunition across floors and rooms covered in dust and debris. When his position was finally overran, nearly 24 hours later, he didn't retreat. He simply moved to the next building, the new command post, if you will, and started again to fire. A self-propelled 88mm gun rolled down the street and fired directly into his room, blasting him off his feet. Shrapnel tore through the wall, splinters cutting his arms. His assistant gunner lay bleeding nearby, but alive. So Vito strapped the gun to a table, set his jaw, and fired back through the window. Then came another tank. It rumbled within 50 yards, muzzle glowing from shot after shot. Vito waited until the German infantry dismounted, since broken light poles and other debris caused a bottleneck at the entrance to the already narrow streets, then leaned out with his rifle and cut them down. 20 men in 20 seconds. He'd been fighting for nearly 48 hours now, without rest, without food, without relief. Just pure adrenaline and determination. Every time the building shook, every time he was thrown down, Vito got back up again. When his machine gun was finally destroyed, he picked up a rifle and a handful of grenades. White phosphorus lit the street like daylight. He hurled grenade after grenade until the Germans broke and they ran. Only when the last of his men were clear did he withdraw, staggering, smoke blackened, and half deaf, but still alive. When it was over, and the Americans returned a few days later, they counted more than 40 enemy dead in front of his positions. Later, when they pinned the Medal of Honor to his chest, reporters asked what drove him to stay. Vito just smiled a little, chuckled, and said, "I'm a soldier. It's my duty. Someone had to."